It's March 15th here in Harnett County, North Carolina, and I'm out here to equalize my colonies. I want all of my colonies to end up with about 4 or 5 frames of brood. And I want all of that brood to be in the bottom box, and I want food frames to be above in the top box. So what I expect that I'll find is that some of these boxes might have 5, 6, 7 frames of brood. Some of these colonies, they might have fewer. They might have maybe 2 or 3 frames. I'm planning to rob from the rich and give to the poor. Any colony that has 5 or more frames of brood, I'd like to donate it to smaller colonies that have fewer than 4 or 5 frames of brood. A good honey frame. More good honey. Honey and pollen. Honey and maybe some room for some brood. Looks like they've cleared it out. Looks like they're expanding or want to expand up into the second deep. They're making space for the queen. More food, pollen, and again looks like they're making some space for the queen to move up, but no brood so far. So it looks like in this colony they'll have all their brood in the bottom. It'll be interesting to see how many frames of brood they have. Lots of pollen, lots of food, and right here we have kind of the beginnings of a cell, but I don't think there's anything in there. I think they're just prepping. Nothing in there. If you're wondering in your area when is a good time to do this task, I believe looking at the last frost date, the average last frost date in your area. In Harnett County, that's about the first week of April. And I believe if you start with that average frost date and you go back on the calendar, maybe about a month to a month and a half before that, that's an ideal time for you to do this task. All right, so this colony had all kinds of honey stores in the top here. Some of that honey might be able to get donated to some of the smaller colonies that don't have as much food. But for now, I'm going to leave them right here and we'll know where it is. All right, let's see how many frames of brood we got down here. Got lots of pollen. Got lots of pollen. I sure hope we find some brood in this. This could be a dud. It could be a queenless. I hope not. Lots of pollen. A little concerning at this point. There's lots of bees here. Lots of resources. You know, even if there is no queen in here, there's lots of resources that we can donate to some of the other colonies, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. I think it's too early for them to have swarmed, and I think there's entirely too many bees in here for me to even consider that they had swarmed. So it looks like this colony may only have recently been queenless. Yeah, we're past the middle here, so I seriously doubt that we're going to find any brood. I'm going to shake these bees off. I just want to get a little bit better look at what's going on here. I don't see any eggs. One good example why you can't trust the activity that you see as to what's going on and whether or not the colony is doing well. All right, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time worrying about this one, but I'm going to mark this one as a resource colony. It'll be resources and bees. So all these bees, all these frames will eventually get donated to some other colony. All right, well, that's easy enough. A little disappointing, but not unheard of. I'm gonna button this back up so we don't get any kind of robbing frenzy going on. I'm gonna put these bees back in. You can see there's just so many bees. Lots of resources though, lots of pollen and lots of nectar, lots of stored honey. So it's not gonna go to waste. And this is pretty heavy. Lots of stored honey in there. All right, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this lid upside down, because by the time I get 2 or 3 colonies down, I'll absolutely forget which one of these was the queenless one. All right, well, let's see if this one's fared any better. Got some bees in here also. Hopefully we find some brood. I haven't really been through these colonies in several months, with the exception of we had our hands-on portion for our beginner course. I teach the course every year at Harnett County. We do a 1-day course, and then I try to host a field day. And that was 2 weekends ago that we were out here. I see some brood. There's a little bit of worker. Oh, there's a good chunk of drone brood right there. So it looks like they are trying to build up, anticipating the spring season when they'll need lots of drones. Oh, some more drones. Oh, lots of drones. I do see workers here though, so I'm not concerned. I don't think I've got a drone layer, but there's an awful lot of drone. I've got a queen cell here. I don't think there's anything in it, but I'm just going to have a peek. Nope, no eggs, nothing. They're just preparing. Spring is right around the corner. All right, here we go. Lots of brood emerging here. Lots of eggs relaid, lots of larvae. That's chock full right there. All right, I'm gonna pull these resource frames over to the side. I'm gonna leave a little space there for brood, because I just have so much trouble remembering how much brood I've seen by the time I get to the other side. Ooh, a full brood frame. We got a little bit of burr comb, not burr comb so much, but it looks like they've connected some of these things together here. Let me get those apart. It's gonna be a little bit of a mess here. Another frame of brood. So far, 3 frames of brood. It's not going down quite right, and it's because there's a big chunk of comb that fell off down there. It's in the way. All right, see this, it doesn't always go as planned. Let me just get down here so I can stick my hand in. I get this bit of comb. This was, I guess, what was in the way there. Bit of drone larvae. If I pull this apart, I wonder if we'll see any varroa mites. I'm not seeing any. That's a good sign. Of course, that doesn't mean there's no varroa mites present in this colony. It just means it's a low count overall. I'm going to just toss that. All right, we'll get this frame back in. Another frame of brood. That's 4 so far. So that just on top, just the number of frames of brood on the top, that kind of puts me on target. That's about where I want to be, 4 or 5 frames of brood. So if we find 2 or more frames of brood in this colony, we're going to want to donate them to some other colonies. This feels like honey. A little bit of brood in the middle, but mostly honey and a little bit of pollen. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 frames of brood up in the top. But remember earlier I said I want to have the brood down in the bottom. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to put a bee. I've got the wrong color. I forgot to bring out this year's color. But I'm going to put a bee on each of these frames, or just so I don't forget. I'm going to button this box back up. Then we're going to go to the bottom and see what we've got down there. There's quite a few bees on here, and rather than squishing them, I'm going to shake them off. That makes it less likely to roll these bees. Let's put in here. Let's go to the bottom box and see what's up there. What's up with the bottom box? All right, I realized you guys couldn't see what was going on in this bottom box, so I decided to move you. All right, you can see there's quite a few bees in here. Let's see how many frames of brood we got. Honey and pollen. Set that off to the side. And wouldn't you know it, frame just came apart. All right, let's see if we can figure this out. Get this apart. There we go. That propolis really sticks stuff together. More pollen, a little bit of honey, but mostly pollen. Pollen, pollen, pollen. Feels kind of light. All kinds of pollen. All right, here we go. Frame of brood, capped, larvae, and eggs. So it looks like we'll definitely be pulling away some of these brood frames. Equalization helps to pull the colonies back, and it helps mitigate swarming. It doesn't stop it altogether, but it can slow it down for those colonies that are gangbusters, colonies that just have a queen that's laying and puts them way ahead by the time the nectar starts flowing. And it helps to bring up the colonies, the smaller ones, to get them closer to when the nectar starts flowing. All right, so it looks like maybe we're only going to take away one frame from this colony here. Not this one. We've got a lot of pollen in here. We've got these two. All right, so what I want to do, there was a lot of pollen in these. And I want to take these, I want to take some of these pollen frames and gift them to some other colonies that may not have it. Here's an excellent pollen frame, lots of pollen. A little bit of larvae in there also. Looks like there's going to be drone brood. I'm going to shake the bees off. I'm going to set this aside. There's another pollen frame. I'm going to leave this on the outside here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start moving. I'm going to make some room. I want to push all the brood. I want to get 5 frames of brood down the bottom. And all the food stores up at the top. And I'd like to bookend on either side, maybe a little bit of pollen or room for them to grow. Pollen frame. So this one's empty. Shake those bees off. This one's empty. Shake those bees off. This will be a good one to move up. All right. This is a good pollen frame. I'm going to put this on the outside. This is food and pollen. I'm going to leave that over here so that they've got something to feed the brood when I move it down. I can't quite tell if there's eggs and larvae in here. No, this looks to be open. It has a little bit of pollen, so I'll maybe look to move that up. So now, this is a food frame and room to grow. I'll set that off to the side, and I'm going to go back to my top box, and I'm going to grab the brood frames and move them down to the bottom box. This one is a food frame, lots of pollen. We'll leave that at the top. There's some brood, so we're going to move this down. There's more brood. Move this down. Lots of brood. Put this here. Now I've got is some pollen, space to grow, some food. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames of brood. I've got 2 frames of brood over here. Let me look to make sure that these are good frames that can be donated. Yeah, this is a good frame to be donated to a smaller colony that needs to grow. It has capped brood on the outside and it's open in the middle, which is an indication that the brood here in the middle has recently emerged, which indicates that the brood on the periphery here will soon be emerging. So those bees, when they emerge, they'll become workers for that new colony, and that'll be a good boost for whatever small colony that we happen to find. This one looks to be about the same. Yeah, so both of these I think are good frames to donate. I'm going to leave those on this side here. We're going to have to fill this one back up here. So let's see what we've got to work with. Lots of food and pollen. I'm going to put that in the top box here. This is open space. We'll put that in the top. More open frames. A bit of pollen. We'll put that on the side here. That'll give that queen some room to lay. Let's see. Some more open space. We'll put up above their head. All right, now since I've got this pollen frame that I plan to donate to someone else, some other colony, I'm going to go grab another frame out of a box. Be right back. All right, what we've got here is a fairly new frame that was from a failed colony from last year that I had in the freezer. So I'm going to put that in the middle here. 2 frames of brood right here. I don't want to separate to make it one single frame of brood. And I've got 1, 2, 3 frames of brood over on this side. I'm going to put this new one right in the middle. That should make them feel like they got a little bit more space. It'll give them a nice frame for the queen to lay in. All right, I'm going to set this back up. Get these bees off of here. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to leave this upside down because there are 2 frames of brood that I want to take from that. But I don't want to put it in another box. I know some folks, some beekeepers put them in other boxes to carry around the bee yard or to other bee yards. But I prefer just to leave them on location in the colony until I find that I need them. All right, let's have a look at this colony. Let's see how they're doing. We might have to move to another location, find us a smaller colony so I could show you what we do with the smaller colonies to boost them up. Let's have a quick look in here. Let's see what's what. We got food. I'm not going to spend too much time. Let's go through this pretty quickly. Feels like food. Oh, lots of brood. All right, we've hit brood already. And we've hit more brood. Lots of eggs. Larvae capped. Brood. 3 frames of brood so far. We've got eggs, larvae, capped brood, a bit of drone brood, some queen cups on the bottom, but they're empty. It's that time of year. Everybody's getting ready. They know what's right around the corner. Kind of a thick frame. Oh, this is like nothing but drone brood. Oh, all right. A little slip of the finger. Hopefully my queen wasn't on there. Let me have a quick look just to make sure. I'm not the best at finding queens. I'll tell you what, I'm going to just smoke these. I don't see her. They're not making a big pile. Usually when the queen falls out, they form a big ball around her. Ask me how I know. I don't think she was on here. This frame is mostly capped. I don't think she would have been on here. 2, 3, 4 frames of worker brood, 1 big frame of drone brood. So we got here. Oh my goodness. A full solid frame of brood. All right, so just in this top box alone, they're on target. But we've got this bottom box to look at also. So there's a chance that they've just moved up. 6 frames of brood. Slam full. Let's see what's on this side. Same thing. Capped brood. So pretty much this whole box up top here, which only holds 8 frames because I have 2 frames taken up by this feeder. But gosh, that's 7 frames of brood. Although one of those was all drone brood. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6 frames of brood. So if there's no brood in the bottom, then we'll be taking away maybe one frame of brood. But I'm willing to bet we're going to find some brood in the bottom as well. All right, shake those bees off so that it makes it a lot easier for me to put this in without rolling so many bees. Let's have a look at the bottom. All right, this must have been a combination sometime in the late summer or fall. I don't normally have 2 feeders in each colony, but what probably happened is I had one that was failing and I combined it with one that needed more room. And this is the end result. A really strong, healthy colony. I think it's definitely better to have one strong colony rather than 2 pretty good colonies or 2 mediocre colonies. Go ahead and in late summer, fall, combine those so that they can all work together to get through the winter. All right, yeah, we got lots of drone. That's another odd frame where they've only drawn out one side. I guess the foundation warped out or bent out and just got a little too close to the frame next to it. And they ended up not working it very much. Oh goodness, a whole other frame of solid brood. All right, I'm going to leave a little gap there because I want to remember where this brood is. Oh, a little bit of brood, pollen. But this colony definitely right now, this time of year, needs to be pulled back. If I don't, they'll be one of the first ones to swarm. They still might be one of the first ones to swarm, but I'm going to do what I can to slow them down. This is wide open. Looks like there's eggs. I'll shake those bees off a little bit. Yeah, there's larvae, milk brood down in that. Brood. Solid. More brood. Who'd have thunk it? Let's see what's on this last one. Looks like they've got room for the queen to lay. We've got a lot of brood in this colony. Now these weren't all solid. There were 1 or 2 that were solid, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames that have brood in there. Maybe 2 of those are solid. And this one up here, we had 6 frames of worker brood and one of drone. Gosh, this is a big colony. And we're going to have to take quite a few away from this. So what I'm going to save you from having to watch me do this, but I'm going to end up pushing the drone or the broods down to the bottom, and we're going to donate some of this the brood to some of the smaller colonies. So at this point, I'm going to just kind of button this back up, and let's go see if we can find a weak colony so I can show you how we build that up. There we go. Got my first sting for today. Just scrape that off. Put a little smoke on there. We'll just keep on going. All right, I'm going to put this back together just to prevent a robbing situation. Let me get this lid on. I'm going to put this upside down because, again, can't remember. So we got this one's queenless. Got lots of honey. We've got this one needs to be pulled back. It's got maybe 2 frames of brood, I think, in there, 1 to 2 frames of brood. This one over here has got maybe 3 frames of brood that we need to pull away from it. All right, let's go look at some of the other colonies. Let's go find a smaller one. All right, what we've got here are singles. These were at another location last summer. They were pollinating pumpkins, and I carried them back to my main yard here. And they never, when they were at the pumpkins, they never grew up to be large enough for doubles, so they kept as singles. Back in late summer, though, I did equalize them all, but they didn't get equalized with the main ones in here. So that's why I have some singles and some doubles in the same yard. Let's have a look here. What I'd like to do with the singles is I want them to all end up with about 4 to 5 frames of brood in the bottom, food above them, and another box for them room to grow in. But that's assuming that we've got a good colony, that we see signs that a queen is in here working and laying. We very well could find that this colony is either queenless or otherwise not doing too well. We're going to jump right in, but we found a frame of brood. First one we pulled out. The reason I didn't pull out this one on the outside is there's a little bit of burr comb that they've pulled out. I'm going to push this away. You know, the bees don't care how they put these together. They just work with the space that they're given. But, yeah. Here, let's go ahead and clean this up. Now this one got its food frame, a little bit of brood, but mostly a food frame. Gonna set that there. This one on the outside here, interestingly, it's got a big hole in the middle. Why does it have a hole in the middle? Because the bees decided that they'd rather attach this in the middle there. So I don't know, maybe there was bad wax there, they chewed it apart, but they had a hole there, and rather than filling it in the way that I wanted them to, they filled it in the way that worked for them. So I'm going to consider this just burr comb. There's a little bit of larvae in there. The holes are so large, it's probably going to be drones. Nothing that I'll miss. Just going to toss that off to the side. And this frame here, you know what? I'm going to go get another box of frames. I'm going to cycle this one out. Be right back. All right, I've got a foundation frame, new foundation. We're going to take this one out. I'm going to shake the bees, because they didn't like this so much for whatever reason. I'll just render that down at some other time. So I'm going to cycle that one out. Oh, let's see. Let me grab that pollen frame. All right, and here's a pollen frame that we pulled out of one of the other colonies. We'll donate that to them. Let's see. All right, let's get back to it. Let's see how much brood's in here. There's a good frame of brood. 2 good frames of brood. Oh, my smoker's about to get me. All right, so there's some larvae in here, but not much. She's just starting to work this. So this frame, 2 frames of good brood and a frame of eggs and larvae. So this one could certainly be boosted up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find some frames to pull over, because we need to make space. So I'm going to take this frame out. This would be a good one to donate to that stronger colony. We'll switch it out. This one as well. All right, let me go ahead. Let's see, what have we got here? I've already forgotten what we've got here. This was mostly food. Might be a little patch of brood in there, but mostly food. We're going to move this one up into the top box. Oh, this one, I forgot this one had some brood. There we go. So instead of 2.5 frames of brood, we got 3.5 frames of brood. So rather than pulling in 2 frames of brood into this one, we might go get 1 and pull that in. All right, so let me take this frame. I'm going to switch it out with one over there. I'll be right back. All right, We got 1 frame of brood here. I'm going to donate that here. That should help build these up. And that pulls that colony back just a little bit. I'm going to put this over here inside for them to have some room. Then what we're going to do, actually, I like to have my feeders in the top. I'm going to take these. This is space for them to grow into. Frames that I got out of the freezer. There's plenty of room there for them to grow. What's in here? Get my feeder in. Let's see. I don't remember. Let's see, this had some food. It's an ugly frame. I'm going to put it up against the feeder over here. You know what? I don't think I like this one a whole lot. I'm going to cycle this one out as well. I'm going to shake these bees off of here. I got this one. I'll render it down to beeswax. That's just an ugly frame. It's going to be difficult to work with. Let me go grab another frame. While I was down there grabbing new frames, it occurred to me, and I remembered that we have that failed colony down there that's full of resources. So I grabbed 2 honey frames. What we're going to do is we're going to take some of these frames out of here. We're going to put honey up here. Put this over here, give them some room to grow. That's a pretty frame. Take this one out. It's a little dark. Somebody else can use it. It's about the same as these. Now this is from that failed colony. I'm taking it bees and all. I'm going to put these up top here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give them, yeah, look at these 2 frames of honey. So they'll hopefully consume that honey as they move up into this space. And you know what, just sitting here thinking on it, there wasn't much pollen. Let me go see if I can find a pollen frame. There we go, we got some more bees, some honey, lots of pollen in the middle, lots of pollen on this side. I'm going to pull this frame out. Move this frame in. We're going to put this pollen on the outside here. So as the bees move up and the queen starts laying in here, they'll have some food stores, some pollen to feed the larvae as they grow into this space. All right, and there we go. We've just boosted a weaker colony. It had, I think, 3.5 frames of brood total. We gave it some more brood, and we put that down the bottom. And we robbed some honey frames from that failed colony at the end, put that in the top, gave them some more space to grow into. This colony is now good to go for another month. All right, I've made a bit of a mess, but everybody has doubles now. For the most part, there's 5 to 6 frames of brood in each of these colonies. The brood is in the bottom boxes, and in the top, I've moved honey and open space, either comb or foundation for them to move up into and to work on as spring starts in the coming weeks. I also pulled out old frames such as that and replaced it with fresh wax foundation. This was a little bit of work. I guess we got, how many colonies? 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I got about 22 colonies out here. And that's a little bit of work. But It's worth it. Hopefully we'll get a good honey harvest in a couple months. And there we go. I got everything cleaned up for the most part. I got the bees angry at me, but this yard's ready to go.